Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. We provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. If you're joining us for the first time, we are thrilled to have you. We have approximately 55 different television shows, which is really cool. So do subscribe to our YouTube channels, USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn-Kerbeck. Our show today is the Mallorca Connection. We have a very interesting topic. The topic is freedom. Who truly wants to be free? What does this mean? We're going to find out from the star of our show. His name is Mr. Roland-Friedl, and he is somewhere in his motorhome in Europe. He's been traveling around for, I think, over 2 years at this point. And he is a coach. He's a mentor. He's an entrepreneur. He is an advocate for men and men's work. Let's welcome him to the show and find out why he selected this topic for today. Welcome.
Hello, Dr. Jacalyn. Great to see you. Hey, you look amazing. You look amazing.
Thank you. It's great to see you as well. And you look fantastic. By the way, I saw one of your posts, and I think it was on Facebook, and you were showing your beautiful detail work for your tattooing. And I had interviewed you for one of my books way back. And I thought to myself, I don't know if you had the tiger and the eagle. Did you have both of them before?
No, only the jaguar, not the eagle.
Jaguar.
Not the eagle. The jaguar I had before, yes, when we did the interview, but the eagle is my last one 2 years ago. Yeah, the last one.
It's quite beautiful, by the way. Not that we're going to ask you to take off your shirt at this point in time, but I think the detail work is really stunning. So
yeah, the honor is to my tattoo master, Chetro, in Madrid. He's a fantastic artist. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the colors look great too. So what is it that you want to discuss today about freedom and who truly wants to be free?
Yeah, there are different reasons, like the Jacalyn. First of all, hello to our audience. Hello. Nice to be here with you again. So about freedom, yeah, for me, freedom, I found out that when I look back my last 40 years, what was a common value of all these years, because values changing when you're getting older. In the beginning it was more career, making money, then it was my family time. Now the kids are out of the house, I have more time for myself, traveling. So the values change, but there's one value that is still with me all the time, is freedom. And I was thinking about freedom, why freedom is so important for me, why people talk about freedom, why people die to be free or fight to be free. And there are different stages of freedom, but also why freedom is not only fun, why it can be so scary, why sometimes freedom can be overwhelming. So I think it's quite an interesting topic. And I did a lot of research on my own experience and my own life about freedom. And yeah, I think it's for me, it's quite an interesting topic, and a very important topic is freedom. Everybody wants to be free. I guess nobody wants to be a slave.
Well, and it's interesting because, as you know, we are a global channel. So there are places in the world where freedom means different things to different people. And sometimes we take it for granted. Sometimes we use it as a soapbox to stand up and say whatever it is we want to say. So let's just start with your experience with freedom. And you've been to so many different countries, so many different places in the world. I'm not sure if you've taken note when you were there about what freedom really meant in those different places. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, what I saw with all my travels, and what I also found out when I talk to people about freedom, is most people think that being unfree. Being a slave means you're a slave in a quite narrow sense, that you are owned by somebody and you work for those people or whatever. Meaning the classical slavery. That's what we still have, unfortunately, even in the 21st century. We still have it. We have it in Africa. We still have it in Asia. We still have it even in North America. It's a hidden thing, but it's still there. We have child trafficking. We have female trafficking, stuff like that. So it's still there, even in the modern, so-called modern Western society. It's still there. Sometimes more hidden, sometimes more accepted, sometimes less. But for me, it's more about it. Even in when you're a so-called freedom person, you're not a slave, but people are not free because they're a slave of their job, they're a slave of their addictions, they're a slave about their belief systems or whatever. So there are different forms of slavery, and I think that for many people, their slavery is their own will. I don't talk about kids. We don't talk about child trafficking. We don't talk about prostitution. We don't talk about kids working in coal mines or whatever. We don't know about this. But especially in the Western world, people are unfree or are freely in the slavery by their own will, because it has many advantages to be not to be free. To be honest, that's what I learned. And a lot of people dream about freedom. They love movies about it, reading books about it. They love a conversation with myself. But in between the lines, I always hear out, "Yeah, I would love to, but I would love to, but." So there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxieties, because to live a free life means a lot of things, and it also a lot of things in consequences. So, and what I found out is that most people wanted to be free of something. I want to be free of slavery. I want to be free of my job. I want to be free of this maybe toxic relationship. I want to be free of whatever it is. And then they got very frustrated because when they are free, they said, "Okay, what now? What now?" So this running away from something doesn't make sense. We see it with revolutions. When you look at history, and my first studies in university was history. All the revolutions at the end it was worse than before, because this was nothing. It was always about being free of something, being free of a dictator, being free of a tyranny. What I found out is more important is to find out, even now in our modern world, is to be free for what? What can I do with my freedom? How creative can I be with my freedom? So for me, it's a very interesting topic, and I spend a lot of time thinking about it and talking with many people in different areas and backgrounds about freedom, and there's a different understanding. But what I found out, especially in the Western world, most people are scared about it, to be free. I give you an example, and there are many examples. In the French Revolution, when they want to get rid of the imperator. In the French Revolution, there was the worst prison in France. It was called the Bastille. The Bastille was a prison. They had about 5,000 people in, and in the Bastille, it was a terrible prison a few 200 years ago. So there are 5,000 people in, and you go in there as a living person, and you only get out when you're dead. You never leave this prison as a living human. So when you die, you get out of prison. So meaning you get in there and you have all this change on there the whole day. It's very dark inside. And when you get in, the keys for the change, they throw away. They don't need it anymore, because you never get free of this. You stay there until you die. And when the revolution was going on in France, and the revolutionists went to the Bastille to free all these people in the prison, they didn't want to get out. I said, no, I want to stay here. I want to stay here. I don't know what I should do out of. I don't know somebody. I don't have no work. I have no job. They didn't want to get out of the prison. That's a very, very interesting thing, and I see it many times. And there's a very nice story I wrote a few years ago. There was a guy traveling through the desert, and he came to a caravanserai to make a break there, staying overnight in a beautiful, this Oriental buildings there. And it was cool inside there. They have this fountain inside. So you get some coolness there, fresh water, a nice room. And when he listened, there was a rabbit shouting out, "Freedom, freedom, freedom." Well, look, there's the rabbit. It was a rabbit. So not a rabbit, sorry, a parrot. A parrot was shouting, "Freedom, freedom." So a parrot who could speak, "Freedom, freedom." I looked around, and this parrot was sitting in a golden cage. And it was always shouting, "Freedom, freedom, freedom." So the guy thought, okay, when it's night and the owner is sleeping, I open the door, and the parrot is shouting for freedom. So let him out so he can be free. So in the night, the guy left his room, went to the golden cage, opened the door, and the parrot didn't get out. So he forced the parrot. The parrot was defending. So he forced the parrot getting out of the cage and fly away. And the guy went to bed. Next morning, when he woke up, he heard the parrot again. "Freedom, freedom." So he was looking in the palm trees and the dead trees where he's sitting. There was no parrot. And he looked. The parrot was sitting in the cage, door open, shouting for freedom. And this is for me, it's a story that I see with many people. They want to be free, but they're so scared that they go back to their old life. And that's I really want to support people who want to live a more free life, what they have to consider about it, and because it's all about taking responsibility. And before freeing yourself of something, you have to know exactly why you want to be free, what you want to do with this freedom. Because when you're free, there's so much space for creativity. What do you do? Do a different job, write a book, paint something, support other people, or whatever. So yeah, it's for me, it's a very interesting aspect. There's two sides of being free of something or being free for something.
Very thought-provoking comments that you've made. I've actually seen some movies that were allegedly based on real-life stories where people were in prison and they had the opportunity to get out on parole and they didn't want to, or they ended up getting out and then they committed a crime so they could go back in. But I'd like to also talk about the freedom of people sometimes are imprisoned in their own mind. So freedom of thoughts, freedom of being, freedom of having a direction to go to and follow without torturing yourself. A lot of people have challenges in those areas.
Absolutely. And I was the same too when I was younger, we have this negative belief system because of my childhood, which wasn't the best one, to be honest. And with a dad who always told me I'm not good enough. And of course, I had this belief system in the beginning, but I was in the lucky position, to be honest, in my quite early years when I was 16 and a half, 17 years old. I found a kind of mentor who supported me, and this really, this was a game changer in my life, totally. So I slowly got rid of this negative belief that I'm not good enough. It's still something a little bit in me. So a few years later as a student, I still was a people pleaser because I always thought I have to perform and do everything for somebody else to get acknowledgement, to be seen, to be loved, stuff like that. But yeah, slowly, it was a process. But you're totally right, Dr. Jacalyn. A lot of people are slaver of their own thoughts, about their own mindset, their belief system. Absolutely. And it's kind of process to get out of there. And a few people can make it by themselves, but I always recommend find somebody, a mentor, a coach who really helps you out of the situation and free yourself from yourself to be yourself. Yeah, to be yourself, to live your true self. I think that's, for me, that one of the most beautiful journeys in your life, to free yourself, to be yourself, to be your true self, and to live your life to your full potential. Yeah, with everything in. Absolutely.
Be free to be you. So, So what about for people who are living in parts of the world where they don't have that kind of freedom mentally? That can be challenging to try to have that mindset that you still have options and the ability to make choices, but your government may say otherwise.
Yes and no. And to be honest, we have the same in the Western European countries at the moment right now. It's a little bit more, they do it a little bit more, I don't know how to say so. Yeah, it's a finally, but we're still not free. We are all in this golden cage, in this treadmill, working, consuming more, needing more work because we need more work. We're still in this treadmill. But I know what you believe. I have some friends who used to live or still live in a so-called country where the government is a kind of dictatorship. Or you have a dictator, so they don't have any official elections or true elections, life like that. You know my opinion. It's no different to the Western world. To be honest, when you travel there, they always tell us on mainstream media how bad these countries are. I give an example: Libya. I have many friends in Libya. You know, there was they called him, the Western world called him the dictator Gaddafi. And I was in Libya when Gaddafi was in office, and it was a beautiful country, absolutely beautiful country. People are moving free. People had education, people had hospital, everything was there. So it was not like they told us in media. People have been happy with Gaddafi. The problem Gaddafi had at the time was that Libya is sitting on huge oil reserves, and the Western world, the Brits and the Americans had an interest in getting the oil. So they killed him and told everyone Gaddafi is a dictator. It's not true. So I see it a little bit different in the world. Or take Russia. I know a lot of people in Russia or in Hungary. Yeah, I mean, especially here in Europe, Russia has a very bad reputation in the mainstream media in Hungary. I know a lot of people in these countries. They're quite happy with the government. They're happy. They have no problems on that. So it's two kinds. And what I learned from myself, I don't care about the outside conditions. I can be free when I'm sitting in a prison. I can be free when I live in a country where there's dictatorship, because I don't care about my outside world. The freedom is in myself, and I decide about my freedom. I give you some example. When I was in training for education to become a trainer, I was reading a lot of books, and I had the favor to meet the wife. Actually, Viktor. I don't know. Did you ever hear about Viktor Frankl? He was on Austrian Jews. He was writing a lot of books. He survived the Holocaust. I never met him, but I met his wife. And Viktor Frankl was the weakest of the family of all his brothers and sisters, but he was the only one who survived the Holocaust. And he was always thinking about why my brothers and sisters are much stronger, because he was always a kind of a sick person. He was very thin and stuff like that. And he said it was his mindset. He said, no matter what they do, I'm going to survive. I'm not fighting against it, but I'm going to survive. I'm free inside, no matter what the outside circumstances are. And I was also, oh my gosh, many years involved in a project after the war in Yugoslavia. You know, when Yugoslavia fell apart, there was a war initiated by the NATO, to be honest, to divide the country. And there was a war more or less between Serbia and Croatia. And a lot of bad things happened there. So a lot of women have been raped, and some women came to Austria, to Vienna, and they got a free, therapies, trauma therapies, coaching class there. And I was in this group of these ladies who have been sexually abused and raped, and some ladies really have been broken, and some ladies absolutely not. And I asked them why. I said, okay, you cannot always have to control what's happening to you, what are the circumstances, the events outside, but I'm in full control how I react on it. No matter how bad it is, inside myself, I don't let it happen. And that's what was one of my learnings many years ago. And for me, freedom is an inner process. I'm free inside myself, no matter what the outside conditions are. And that's why I don't care about that. I don't read newspaper. I don't listen news. Who is in charge? Who is, because politics for me it's always the same coin, and every coin has two sides. It's a different side from the same coin. So I don't care about politics and stuff like that, because I live my own life, and it's for me it's an inner process. And you can be a free person in a dictatorship country, and you can be an unfree person in a so-called free Western world. It's an inside job. I strongly believe. Yeah. That's my experience.
Exactly. I think that's a key takeaway from the show, is that it all starts with your mindset. And to your point about media, if you are surrounding yourself with negativity, with fear mongering, etc., and you start to buy into that, that's going to affect your mental health. It's going to affect your ability to feel free or not free. And we've talked about this many times, Roland, that people will say, I've got to go on vacation. I've got to get away from all of this. But yet they're taking everything with them just to a different destination. And how many times we hear people say they went on vacation and they didn't really relax and enjoy it. And now they need another vacation because it's in here. It's all in here. You can be on vacation in your everyday life. That's how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you mentioned me in the video, I don't read newspapers. I don't even have a TV set, but I'm very, very happy to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family, because we're not manipulating people. We are not sending bad news. Don't building all the garbage in the households just with the breakfast or something like that. So we try to educate people and give them options and choices, and people can learn and educate and connect and care and share. And that's why I'm very happy about being part of this. I would call it a movement, or this family, USA Global TV Radio. It's the only TV show I watch and listen, and I'm proud of it. I'm very proud of it because it makes a difference, and we can make an impact. Absolutely.
Thank you, Roland. I really appreciate that. And when we first started doing the shows together, and of course, you've done hundreds of episodes on Talking Heads and Wild at Heart, and I'm sure there were other shows because you've always been so open, just jumping in and sharing information. But I really loved your whole attitude and your whole presence and your mindset, because it's unlike most of the people whom I've met. And so it's really liberating. So even on the last show, when we were talking about you're going to be doing this 28-day fast, and then you're going to go to a 40-day fast. I mean, that's just revolutionary. I love it. You're not looking for accolades. You don't need people's appreciation to continue to do what you're doing.
No. But to be honest, I'm also I'm fucking scared, to be honest. I don't know. Oh my God, is it good? When you live a free lifestyle, what does it mean? It means taking full responsibility. I cannot complain somebody else. I have to take care about myself, that I can feed myself, that I find a place to sleep, that I get make money, income. I'm full of self-responsibility. And this is sometimes overwhelming because, it's also my life. It's not a 24/7 happiness. Not at all. And I guess we're not here in this world to have 24 hours of happiness. So we are here to learn and to learn and learn and learn, educate ourselves and to learn. And we need to get out of the comfort zone, meaning we have to stress ourselves, meaning we have to be a little bit scared. I'm not a superhuman being, but I'm not a fool too, because I know when I'm scared, when I have anxieties, the body gives me a feedback, my emotion gives me a feedback. Take care, don't take too much risk. But when I'm clear about it, about the next step, I don't have any fear. I just step forward. There's fear in the beginning always, but most of the fear is just in my head, and that's what I learned about it. Is it actually really a scary situation, meaning a risky, dangerous situation, or is it just in my mind? And when it's just in my mind, I give it away because it's that's what I learned. So my point is, of course, I'm sometimes scared. Of course, sometimes I have self-doubts. Of course, sometimes I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, but that's the price I pay. And if I go back to my old life, there's the price I have to pay. I'm not happy. I'm in this golden treadmill. I'm not free. I have to do what somebody else tells me. I have to do what I maybe don't like to do. So there's always a price you have to pay. But I'm willing to pay the price of being scared a little bit, to have some uncertainty in my life. But I'm free, and that's the price I'm willing to pay. And I absolutely love it. And I grow every day. I grow a little bit more, and I enjoy it more. Absolutely.
And I also like the fact that with all of your travels, you're continuously meeting new people. And if it's not working, like what you even said in the last show, for someone to contact you and see if you can work together, you're not going to just work with anyone for money. You are going to see, does this make sense? Are we a good pair or a good partner? And there are people out there who would just work with anyone if they're going to get paid, because they're terrified and they think, well, some paying client is better than none. But in that silence, or in the time when you maybe don't have clients, you're still growing and progressing. And then the ultimate client will eventually come along.
Absolutely, and it's a very interesting point you just mentioned, Dr. Jacalyn. I had it too a few years ago. No, I was not happy with my business, meaning not happy with the outcome. I was not happy with the job I'm doing, and didn't make any sense anymore. And I wanted to do something different, but I didn't let go the old one because it was still good money. And I was wondering why the other one is not working, because there was no space for it. And then I said, okay, I have to give up the old one, even don't know if the new one is working, or what exactly will the new one be. And that was my learning, something to have to take risk. That's all about it. What I want to mention now can be a little controversial, I know, but I strongly believe that when you're an entrepreneur over many, many years, and you take all this responsibility, you're aware about what you're doing, you're building up what I call a so-called conscious business. You're still learning all the time. For me, this is a very spiritual path. It doesn't mean that you can't be spiritual when you're an employee. Yeah? But for me, it's a kind of spiritual path, being an entrepreneur. And being aware and being conscious about what I was doing. I was learning so much about myself. And to be honest, in my early 20s, I was doing more about being more productive, being more efficient, selling more and stuff like that. But over the year it changed, and I was working on myself. So I did my shadow work. I was working on my traumas and stuff like that. So for me, my entrepreneurship, or as I call myself, an entrepreneur, thanks to Dr. Jeffrey for having me the name, is yeah, for me, it's a kind of spiritual path. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And would you recommend to others to reach out to Dr. Jeffrey?
If you want to learn Sanskrit and understand the Bhagavad Gita, yes. yeah. He's an amazing teacher. But if you're really interested, because the studies with him go very deep, and I mean, when you're in the US and Canada, it's easy because it's 7 p.m. Vancouver time. So for me, it means 4 a.m. in the morning, his lessons. Or when I'm in Portugal, it's 3 a.m. in the morning.
Roland, I know you've had and have a very successful career. You've had businesses, some were great, some were opportunities to learn. With the various clients with whom you've worked, I'm sure you've encountered people who didn't have this freedom in their mind. And are you still able to work with people under those circumstances so they can acknowledge the fact that they don't have this freedom inside to enable them to move forward in any capacity?
Absolutely, man. That's what drives me, is inspire these people. Actually, it's never too late to change something. And with all my coachings I do in business, it's always a little bit, I never call it freedom coaching, but some people get scared about it. Freedom coaching. I don't want to be free. But I always bring something in so they can free themselves, and also free themselves from myself. So I'm not a coach to make people dependent on my coaching. So I teach them, I support them so they can find their own way and help them out on. So I just walk a little bit on their side, part of the path. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, it's never too late, and I really encourage people to be free. And first of all, I always ask them, do you want to be free? And what do you understand by be free? And what holds you back? What are your anxieties, or what are your doubts? What holds you back? And how can I support you to get rid of this step by step? It's not about doing, a 180 degrees change. It's not working. It's slow. It's a process. Slowly. And smell the air of freedom a little bit, and get a little bit more attached to the first step. Get used to it. That's what we call, broaden or widen your comfort zone. You get out of comfort zone, you get used to it. Okay, it becomes the new land, becomes part of your comfort zone. You do the next step. So you just step by step widen your comfort zone. That's what I did the last, 45 years or something like that. Step by step. Even with my negative childhood, what was not fun, even with a dad that always told me I'm not good enough. I cannot do this, I cannot do that. I guess we have two options. We can always have excuses, or we can use this negative conditions to make it better and say, okay, I prove you, I can do it better. I can prove you. Yeah, that was my focus, my goal, and my motivation. To do it differently and not believing what other people tell me. not believing what
I
the other
really
people say
like,
because it's their opinion.
exactly. And I really like this idea of freedom coaching. I've never heard this before. It's so liberating because we get so caught up in what other people think. And I know even myself back in the day, I could literally be having a great day and someone says something to me and then I'm off crying in the corner like, oh, boo-hoo, he or she thinks this, that. And, today at 61, I think, why would I give anyone my power? That's
Yeah, yeah.
insane.
I remember 30 years ago, I met a guy, Jeff, from the US, actually from Florida, Jeff Ruperti, Saratoga, Florida, Jeff Ruperti. And he told me, he said, Roland, when you believe what somebody else says to you, you have what they have, and maybe they have nothing.
Interesting. Interesting. Caroline Heward, who's one of our team members, we have a show called The Listening Mentor, and we talk quite frequently about people giving unsolicited advice and the word should. You don't even ask them for an opinion. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. And I think to myself, I wonder what's going on inside of them that they feel that they know what's best for me because I'm figuring out what's best for me. How does a complete stranger but people do that a lot. What are your thoughts on that? The unsolicited advice?
I never do that. I was smiling all the time listening. I have a nice friend. He's a nice guy. And we met last weekend he visited me to see me because he asked me if I can do a workshop together with him, how guys can meet girls or date, so about magic dates. and a former girlfriend of mine, 29-year-old, she was the opposite of us. and he was talking and talking and talking, meaning giving her advice. She mentioned something, and he was always giving advice and giving advice and giving advice. I was smiling all the time. And when he left, she said, "My gosh, I didn't ask for any feedback, any advice." Yeah, some people, I don't know, they have this teaching calling or whatever you might call it, who giving advice without being asked. I never do it. If somebody asks me, I do it, or I ask the person before when I see something that really hurts me, and I say, "Oh my gosh, what the heck is he or she doing or saying?" And I see it, okay, and I want to support them. I ask them, "Okay, do you want to have an advice? Do you want for this?" I ask before. But never give any advice. Listen, never ever. That's not polite. No, and to be honest, it's not my business. I always respect the privacy and intimacy of another person, and so I would never do so. Never ever. If I get asked, yes, or if I see something really that hurts me painfully and would really help the other person, I ask the person first if he or she's open for a tip or a hint or advice or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And just as a coach myself, I always find myself saying, Roland, I have an experience that may be similar to what you're going through. How would you feel if I shared something personal with you?
Yeah.
And then you have the option. I've actually had people say, I really don't want to hear it. Great. That saves me time too. It's perfect.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And there's no judgment. So do you think when a person has truly found freedom within themselves that they can be emotionally impacted or affected by other people's opinions? Or do you think it's almost like you have this shield that protects you and you just, it bounces off of you?
Well, that comes very close to enlightenment. To be honest, I can only speak from my own experience, my own life is I'm sometimes I'm triggered, to be honest, especially when I'm in a relationship where there's an emotional relationship, emotionally detached. It triggered me. Yeah, absolutely. I had problems on that. I've been single for 2 years now. I have a girlfriend again. Now it's different. Now it's totally different. It doesn't trigger me anymore. Yeah, it's different. But before, yes, it was absolutely. Yeah. Because I'm not. We're still human beings. We still have emotions, and we have. What I see for myself is when I reflect myself is when I'm in a bad mood. It's easier to trigger me, and then I play trauma or something like that. This trauma triangle. Yeah, It can happen to me, but less and less and less. Luckily, over the years from my development and my learning is now I realize very, very fast that I get a trauma invitation. I realize it, and I don't take the invitation. So I say, no, thank you. Yeah. But in the beginning, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So some good advice for people to get onto the path of freedom or enlightenment. They can work with you, obviously, and they can look for mentors, coaches like Dr. Jeffrey. What other suggestions would you have as a good place to start with going down the path of changing your mindset and embracing freedom to see, is this really what I want? Am I able to give up all of the encumbrances that are holding me back, all of the negative feelings and vibrations? And by the way, there are plenty of people who live in the past. They're very safe in the past. They always want to talk about what used to be and what's not anymore. And they're not free, are they?
No, absolutely not. Because when you live in the past or when you live in the future, you're not free. You're only free when you live in the present moment. Then you're free. Yeah. But it's a process, and to make it clear, I cannot free somebody. It's you have to do your own job. I can just support somebody and give some, be on the side. When you walk a very small path on a cliff and it's falling down, I'm just a rope on the side so you don't fall down. But you have to walk. You have to walk away. I'm not going to carry you on the small path. I'm just a rope there to prevent you from falling down. That's what I'm doing. But people have to do their own job and the stuff. But to come back to your question is, I guess the first thing is, why do you want to be free? We all know it's the same, like, when you say most people know what they don't want, the question is, what do they want? Actually, a few weeks ago, I met a very good friend of mine, a young girl. And I gave her, she asked me for feedback, and I said, what I sense when I'm together with you, when we talk, I know her now since a year. I said, I know exactly what you don't want, but since a year, I have no fucking clue what you want. And it's the same with freedom. Most people, as I said in the beginning, know exactly they want to get free of something, but the question is free for something. That's the same thing. Most people know what they don't want, but what do you want? So the beginning question is with my clients is, why do you want to be free? What are you doing with this freedom afterwards? So this is, this star, this leading star that helps you through the darkness, because it's you walk through darkness when you free yourself. It can be really scary, as I said in the beginning, and overwhelming. So you need this leading star, this lightning star. This lightning star is why you're doing this. What do you want to do with your freedom? What do you want to do afterwards? This is the lightning star, the guiding star that helps you to go through this darkness.
Roland, we're just about out of time, but I do have a quick question, which I'm sure will have a very in-depth answer. But in order to have this freedom, whether it's mentally, physically, whatever the case is, do you have to follow all of the rules?
What do you mean by rules?
Well, whether they're actual rules or whether they're self-imposed rules or whether they're societal rules. What if you've been considered sort of to be a rogue, you're just out there on your own. People could say, wow, that person really has chosen their freedom because they're just doing whatever it is they feel. But what about when it goes against the rules of society or governmental rules, etc.?
Okay. First of all, I try. I say try because you never know. Sometimes you hurt somebody and you do it unconsciously, by saying something or whatever. I don't want to hurt or harm somebody. First of all, that's one thing. As you know me a little bit, I give a little bit less shit on authorities or governments. I don't have a residency, stuff like that. So I don't care about this because I'm born as a free person. By some circumstances, my mom and my dad have been in Austria when my mom gave birth to me, so I got an Austrian passport. But I see myself as a human being on planet Earth. I don't see myself as an Austrian or a European. And some people ask me, where is your home? I said, my home is inside myself. So some people ask me, because you're always on the road, do you feel homeless or need a certain place? My home is here inside. I always have my home with me wherever I am. It's inside me. Like freedom, it's inside me. So to answer your question is, I try to respect every individual. of course. I respect when I drive my motorhome, speed limits. Of course, I do stuff like that. People that let's say things that make sense, common sense, I respect, of course, not to harm other people. So I'm not speeding my motorhome fast in a city because I can hurt somebody, cannot brake when a child is crossing the road or an old lady or something like that. So there are things that absolutely make sense to me, yes. But there are things like rules and regulations. Let's look back the last 4 years that didn't make any sense for me, so I didn't follow the rules there. So, but I didn't harm anyone. Yeah. So I hope this answers the question.
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you. Well, my dear friend, who would be a great client for you? And you've got some new projects coming up. Who would you like to reach out and contact you, and how should they do it?
A good client for me is a person that is really taking care about others and about the environment, other people, and really wants to free themselves because they find out maybe they're too much a people pleaser, been in the past. Maybe they've been, when I speak to men, a nice guy. So I say no more nice guy anymore. People who do good in the world, who have a good intention, but not taking care about themselves and really want and find out or feel something has to change, and they're willing to change, and but they don't know how. Maybe they're a little bit scared. Maybe they need a rope on the cliff, not falling down on their path. That's the people who should contact me, and the best way to contact me is, guys, send me an email, office@roland-friedl.com. So office at my name is Roland Friedl. It's ROLANDFRIEDL.com. And then we chat, the conversation. There's so many tools that we can use on a phone, on a Zoom, or whatever, and then find out if there's a fit. If I feel that you are committed and you feel that I'm a fit for you, and then let's see where the journey is going. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, it's been absolutely fabulous seeing you and having these 2 shows with you today. And will you be joining us again next week?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be part. And thank you so much, Dr. Jacalyn, because I know how much work it is to build up a platform like USA Global TV and Radio, where myself and many, many other colleagues can share their experience and knowledge and maybe have a little impact on somebody's life. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I've said this before, but at the end of the week, now we're broadcasting 7 days a week, but I just think to myself, all that I have learned, recently I was with some people and they were complaining there's nothing to watch on television, and I didn't say anything. And I thought, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I thought, yeah, there's plenty to watch if you come to our station, our channel. We've got plenty of education for everyone and interesting topics like this one today. I'm taking something away from that. I'm going to keep thinking about the freedom coaching, and the freedom resides in here and in here. So thank you as always for sharing all of your expertise.
Thank you. And I want to mention, it is education without finger pointing.
Yes. Yes.
That makes a difference.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, we're signing off for now. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Our next show is coming up. It's Talking Heads with Caroline Heward, and she's going to be talking about managing anxiety. All right. We'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.